والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا صالحا متقبلا يا رب. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل واجعلنا من أهل القرآن الذين هم أهلك وخاصتك. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah we'll recite Surat al-Aadiyat together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ إِنَّ رَبَّهُمْ بِهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَخَبِيرٌ. صدق الله العظيم. Inshallah we'll go into the tafsir of the ayah, but before I begin, whoever gives adhan, please make sure not to turn the switch off. Keep the switch on when you give adhan or iqamah. Just leave the switch on, because then the camera gets turned off and sometimes it might cause issues with the recording. Surat al-Aadiyat, as you all know, it's a Makki surah. Okay, it's a Makki surah. Its correlation to the surah prior, as you all know, Surat al-Qari'ah, Surat Zalzala, this surah, they're all correlated around Yawm al-Qiyamah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says at the end, in Surah al-Zalzala, وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا, and then He says, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. All of your a'mal will be brought forth in front of you, the small good deeds, the small bad deeds, nothing will be hidden in front of Allah. وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ, as is in Surat al-Adiyat, everything that is in the hearts will be taken out and you will be, your suhuf, your book, either you will get it in your right hand or your left hand. That's the correlation between the surah prior and this surah. Surat al-Adiyat, wal-Adiyat, let's go into it. What is al-Adiyat? What is al-Muriyat? What is al-Mughirat? This surah has a lot of vocab. And bil munasaba, Juz Amma has so many new vocabulary. To go over, for example, the first Juz, you'll come across vocabulary, but it's not too many different words. But look at Surah Al-Adiyat. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضُبْحًا مُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا مُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا أَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا فَوَسَطْنَ. Ask any Arab randomly, they won't be able to tell you what these words mean. Right? They won't know. Right? So it's Quranic vocabulary. That's why Juz Amma, people think, oh, it's the easy surah to do tafsir of. Actually, Juz Amma is one of the harder ones to do tafsir of. And if you go over Juz Amma and you know the vocabulary of it, it'll help you in your journey with the whole Quran. Al-Muhim, Al-Adiyat, Muriyat, Mughirat, all of this, some of the scholars, they say it's referring to horses. Other Mufassirun, they mention it's talking about camels. Okay? And with the opinion that it's talking about horses, it could be the horses of battle or horses in general. And if it's talking about camels, it could be the camels of the battle of Badr. It could be the camels of the people that go into battle in general. It could be the camels of those that go into Hajj. It could be the camels in general. Okay, Mufassirun, they have a lot of different opinions, right? And the Quran is hammalun lil wujuh. All of these opinions with the siyaq, they could have a place, right? It's not like, oh, the Quran has difference of opinions. No, these are all like the Quran hammalun lil wujuh, as they say. It could take all of these opinions, but the more sound one, based off of the siyaq and the style of the surah and what's being referred to, is horses that are going into battle. And you'll see why it's referring to that more so than the other ones. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ الَّتِي تَعْدُو فِي مَشِيهَا. It's racing and running in the way it's not walking, it's running. Okay. صُبَحًا. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا. عفوا. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبَحًا. الضبح, it's that sound, that salt that it makes when it's running. It's like the panting sound, the panting sound of a horse when it's running into battle. Okay? وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبَحًا. The racing horse that's making the sound of panting as it's running into battle. وَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدَحًا. It's hitting against the rock. Al-Muriyat. رَأَيْتُمُ النَّارَ الَّتِي تُورُونَ. The fire that you give spark to. Same thing when the horse is running and it hits against the rock, it's going to make that sparks because of how fast it's going. وَالْمُورِيَات, it's giving sparks. قَدَحًا, it's when it strikes against the ground, when it strikes against the rock. Right? So it's giving this imagery of horses going into battle and how they obey their master. How? That horses, you give it very little, you mashallah, you just take care of it a little, you massage it, you give it some food, and they're willing to go with their master to battle. And you'll see why this matters. وَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدَحًا. They're running into battle, okay, and they're panting, and as they're running, their hooves, right? They're called hooves? Right. They're striking against the ground and it's sparking because of how fast and how hard they're hitting it. وَالْمُغِيرَاتِ. They're running and charging into battle صُبَحًا in the dawn. It's because that's when they would go out into battle. عادة أهل الغارة في الأكثر أن يخرجوا في الصباح. They would go out in the morning time. Okay. فأثرن به. It's walking. It's like really hard and like raising. فأثرن به نقعا. And as they're rushing into battle and they're going, dust is going all around them. Okay. And the dhamir, it can either be going referring to that when they're rushing in and that dust is being collected all around because the horse is running. I'm sure you can imagine if horses are running, there's going to be a dust cloud behind them, right? It could either be in the morning time that dhamir is referring to, meaning that dust cloud is happening in the morning time as they're rushing into battle, or in the place that they are going to, or around the enemy, and as you're fighting and there's horses running, that there's going to be lots of dust clouds. فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقَعًا. And the last one, where it's around the enemy, the next ayah suits it. Why? فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. They're running. Imagine there's like rows and rows of like an army, and they go straight in the middle. That's how brave they are. فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. They go right in the middle of the battle. And again, remember that opinion I mentioned, where if it's referring to the camels going for Hajj, فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا is referring, Jam'a, Muzdalifah. When they go, the camels go to Muzdalifah. Okay, this is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by all of these things, but what is He swearing about these things for? إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. This is the example of a horse, an animal. A dog is more loyal sometimes than a human being. That this horse, when it goes and rushes into battle, what did you do to deserve this loyalty of a horse for it to want to go into battle with you? Nothing. It just obeys its master. But insan, he's not like the horse. He's not like the dog. He's unloyal. He's extremely ungrateful. Innal insan, the insan li rabbihi, for Allah Azza wa Jal, the one who feeds him, the one who takes care of him, the one who gives him wealth, the one who gives him health, the one who does everything for him. Nothing you and I have is from ourselves. Innal insan, unlike the horse, li rabbihi lakanud. He is very ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Extremely ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there, waqil, al-kanud, it means al-asi, the one who is disobedient. Okay? Sufiya, some of the people of tasawwuf, they say, al-kanud is the one who worships Allah expecting something. They worship Allah not because they want to love Allah, they just worship because they want to gain something. That's what some of the people of tasawwuf that they mention. In Arabic, ardun kanud, a land that is kanud, okay, and a land that is kanud is a land that nothing grows from. So this believer, there is no benefit coming from, not believer, this insan, the believer bil'aks, the believer, he is not li rabbihi lakanud. He's li rabbihi shakir wa shakur. The believer is someone who is grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Insan, in his tabi'ah though, the kafir, he is ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And similarly, like a land that does not grow, nothing comes from this person. وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. And indeed, he is on that, the ungratefulness, لَشَهِيد. He is a witness against himself. بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا. Insan is well aware of his state, that he himself, he knows that he is muqassir. He knows that, man, I don't pray. I know, I admit it. I don't pray. I don't give sadaqah. I don't respect my parents. I know these things. وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ, he knows himself. Or it could be referring that dhamir, and the first opinion is more correct because it fits the siyaq. Because إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ, the insan, he is a witness against himself. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ, and again, insan, for the love of wealth, لَشَدِيد, is extreme. Okay? But if some of the mufassirun, they say it's referring to Allah. وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ, Allah on that bears witness, and he sees all, and he will testify, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees all of this. Okay? But the first opinion, that insan himself is the one who bears witness against himself, is the more sound opinion. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. Al-khayr here is referring to money. Money. He loves the wealth. Who doesn't love money here? I'm sure, mashallah, all of you guys love money. Yeah? You guys all love, we all love money. وَإِنَّهُ الْإِنسَانِ لِحُبِّ الْمَنِي. Astaghfirullah, you don't want to say that because in Arabic, al-mani shay akhar, astaghfirullah. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ, he loves wealth and he is extreme with it. لَشَدِيد could mean that he's haris alayhi, he wants to go and he goes, puts extra hours and he's trying to get more and more wealth. Or it could mean bakhil. Bakhil meaning what he has, he wants to keep, he doesn't want to spend it in good things. وَإِنَّهُ, the insan, for the love of wealth, he's very extreme with it. He doesn't want to let go of it. He wants to constantly pursue it. He's always thinking about wealth. And instead of being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that gives him everything and being abd of Allah, he becomes abd of dirham wa dinar. He worships the dirham and the dinar. إِذَا أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ, does he not know? It could either be referring to insan. Okay, does not the insan know what his state will be when he will be resurrected? Or it could mean أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ, and this is a rhetorical question, not to be answered. Does not Allah know the actions of the insan when he will be resurrected? Okay, two ihtimal. أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ, does he not know إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ, when it's time for resurrection? And this again goes back to Surat Zalzala. وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ, and what is in the sudur, all of the deeds that we have will be brought forth. The good deeds, the bad deeds, the small things, every single thing, they will be brought forth. Even the things that you hide inside, everything will be put in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot hide from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day. إِنَّ رَبَّهُمْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day, be him with insan and all of people, يَوْمَئِذٍ, on that day, لَخَبِيرٌ, is well aware. There are some lessons that we could take from this surah, some reflections, and I want you to think of your own reflections for this surah. Number one is, subhanallah, how important horses were for the people back then. Nowadays we don't care for horses as much, but back then that was a tool that they used to go into battle. And it's something to reflect on, perhaps, that we should be encouraged by this to even learn horse riding, as the Prophet ﷺ encouraged. For it's not diya' al-waqt. When you spend time learning horse riding and spending time with your horse and doing these sorts of activities, it's actually beneficial for you. So maybe we can organize a horse riding day, inshallah. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Another thing that we could take from this surah is the reward of someone who fights in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm going to be very vague here so I don't get in trouble. The reward of someone who fights in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for the person who fights for his sake, and the love Allah has for everything that the person who fights in his sake that he uses, including horses. There's a hadith in the Prophet ﷺ, sallu alayhi, that of course Allah does not love when a person is boastful, right? But there are times when Allah loves a person when he is boastful. An instance of that is when a person is in battle. Allah loves when a person is boastful and is strutting in battle, showing the strength of a believer. You see, Allah loves when a person does this. When a person, he's showing, strutting and being boastful at the time of battle. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ مُخْتَالٍ فَخُورٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love someone who is boastful and arrogant in general. But there are instances like in battle where this is actually recommended. This is actually something that is seen as good. Okay? Also, another thing that we could take from this surah is the style and rhetoric of the Quran. SubhanAllah, look at the rhythm. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدَحًا فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا. You see? Look how the rhythm and the style of the Quran. And the Arab, they loved horses. They loved war. They loved battle. They didn't have action movies and, James Bond, or Tom Cruise movie that just came out, right? They didn't have these things, but they had imagery through shi'r. They had imagery through language. They love these sorts of things. And so you see the style and rhetoric of the Quran. Al-jihad is not just jihad al-nafs, but also jihad al-mal. That a person fights against his nafs. That a person fights against his nafs. And his nafs, lakanud. Himself in his tabi'ah, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا إِذَا مَسَّهُ الْخَيْرُ مَنُوعًا. And then the ayah, وَإِذَا أُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحْ وَمَا أُبَرِئُ إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِسُوءٍ. Our nafs, it commands us sometimes to evil if we don't have control over it. It wants to be selfish. It wants to hoard wealth. It wants to just benefit and be selfish, right? But a part of that jihad that a person does is that he is grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the way he shows that gratefulness is by spending, right? Another thing that we could take from this surah, وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. We are all aware of our own mistakes. We are all aware of the things that we fall short in, right? إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. And we are all aware that insan, it's very possible that he can become extremely ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The best way to cure yourself is by knowing your mistakes. To be self-reflective, to look at yourself and really just objectively say, what are my mistakes? What are my issues? Do I have anger issues? Am I selfish with my wealth? Do I not like spending in charity? Am I disrespectful to people? Am I arrogant? Asking, observing yourself, not focusing on people, focusing on yourself, literally just judging yourself. When you know yourself, you will be able to do ilaj and islah of yourself. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ وَإِنَّهُ الْإِنسَانَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. He bears witness against himself. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ. Insan, he loves wealth, right? But the way to do ilaj of this is that if you love this wealth, what? You don't just focus on saving, like we covered in الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَ in Surah Al-Humazah. Rather, he what? يُنْفِقُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. He spends in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any opportunity he gets, he knows that he will be resurrected. أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ. He knows that this life is temporary. He knows that he will be resurrected. So he does not hoard, because he knows there's no value in what you spend, in what you save, but the value is in how you spend that time, how you spend that wealth. These are some of the reflections that we could take from this surah, and overall in general, how we should be more like the horse, how it's obedient to its master, it's willing to go into battle just for the sake of its master, and how we, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're willing to do jihad of ourselves, jihad of our wealth, jihad of everything. We're willing to put ourselves on the line for the sake of Allah and His religion. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Any reflections from anybody on this surah? Huh? Subhanallah, yes. Yeah. The Prophet ﷺ, he would be in the front lines when he would go into battle. The Sahaba would seek protection behind him. That's how brave he was. Yes.
And he tried to collect them,
yes.
But they scared from the group.
Yes.
They come against them.
Yeah.
So he said in this war. Yeah. So he would collect the companions because they were scared.
حمل الوجوب بالنسبه للقران في وقت الرسول كان الصحابه ممكن يسالوا الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم على المعنى.
نعم.
Did this happen? Has it been documented or not?
No, so there are instances, of course, when it comes to the tafsir, where the Sahaba explicitly ask Rasulullah, what does this mean? Right? But that's not for all of the ayat. Some things are left open for interpretation. This is actually from the hikmah of Sharia. Right? If you think even in terms of ahkam fiqhiyah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He could have easily done bayan of every single hukum. But there is some sort of rahmah in a sense, and also hikmah in leaving things open for interpretation. The Quran, there's tafsir of it, but when it comes to, for example, reflection, like the reflections we just did, and anytime a person reads, he can look at it from beyond the tafsir. He'll be like, I could apply this ayah in this scenario. I could apply this ayah in this scenario. Obviously, ala ilm, ala basira, not ala jahal. Some people, mashallah, they take ayat of Quran and they apply it the wrong way. Of course, ala ilm wa basira, and the reflections happen after the fact that you understand the tafsir of it, not before.
Like the beginning of some surahs, Alif, Lam, Mim, Ha, Mim.
Yeah.
It has too many, the scholars, they have too many tafsir.
Yeah, this is from the mutashabihat.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
There's an ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah that explicitly states that some things we left, some things we explained explicitly, some things we leave not hidden, but like.
Surah Ali Imran, first page. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. Only Allah knows the ta'wil of the Quran, the mutashabihat. The mutashabihat.
الراسخون في العلم يقولون آمنا به
Yeah.
كل من عند ربنا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب.
بارك الله فيك. السلام عليكم.
جزاك الله خير يا شيخ الله يفتح عليك.
Yeah. Huh? Okay, so he asked, is there another tilawa for وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيد? لَشَدِيد, right? There is a qira'ah of Susi and Abi Amr, he does idgham, وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيد. He does idgham of ra to lam. So instead of saying khayr, وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيد, لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيد. But wallahi, you know what I was thinking? I was just thinking this before. I said, is it possible that this wajh of qira'ah, instead of reading khayr la shadid, it's khayl? It kind of goes with the context of the surah, you know? It's talking about the horses. But I'm not sure. Is this just the style of recitation, or is this affect the tafsir? I was thinking this before, and I was like, you know what, let me ask one of my mashayikh. I was like, maybe I'll ask him later, but now I'm 100% going to ask, inshallah. I'm going to ask, inshallah.
They say it al-khayr.
Yeah, in the qira'ah, وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ
At the
لَشَدِيد.
beginning it was like forces.
Yeah.
Subhanallah.
بارك الله فيكم.
Subhanallah. Quran عظيم.
عظيم.
أهل القرآن أهل الله وخاصته.
نعم. اللهم اجعل منهم.
آمين يا رب. لو مات الله يريد always be new things.